Welcome back to An Audience of One by JannahVersity, in which we deliver spiritually uplifting and motivational content to individuals who need a reminder that they have worth, that they have value, and gifts that they need to share with the world. And that regardless of how many mistakes that they've made, that it's never too late to make today the day that you change your life. It's quite possible that along this path to destruction, you were wronged along the way. It's rare that somebody grows up in a happy and healthy environment, surrounded by supportive family, friends, and community, torpedoes their existence. Even when you grow up in a happy home, life is a way of leaving its scars on you. But if you're here, it's probably fair to say that you've seen your fair share of transgressions. Some people suffer from their parents because they weren't a part of their life, because they were physically absent. Some people don't even know who their dad is. Sometimes dad was there, but you wish that he wasn't because he was physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive. Sometimes it could be mom, as moms too, unfortunately, can be physically, emotionally, or verbally abusive. Sometimes she's checked out. Sometimes she's checked out to the point where you have to be mom for yourself or for your siblings. Maybe she's there, but her presence is only for the purpose of using you as a prop for her social interactions. Sometimes it's not just one parent, but both parents. There could be domestic disputes, domestic abuse, physical abuse of you, neglect, constant yelling. There could be substance abuse, mental health issues. It's quite possible that they themselves are the product of an unhealthy upbringing. It's really easy to destroy a human being when they are in the foundational years of developing who they are about to become. These interactions, or lack thereof, most likely created a lot of resentment, unhealthy, or disconnected relations. And if you've ever tried to address any of these issues with these individuals, it's quite possible that it's been met with amnesia, or you've received backlash because whatever happened was actually your fault, or you're just weak. Now, it may seem obvious, but human beings require a healthy environment in order to grow up as healthy human beings. Now, sure, there's plenty of stories out there of people who turned out to be phenomenal human beings despite growing up in some really difficult circumstances. But there's a reason why we celebrate these individuals, because they are the exception to the rule, not the rule itself. That isn't to say that you are doomed by your past. In fact, that's what this podcast is all about, giving people hope, giving them motivation, and giving them tools to better their life. You may have also had teachers who made it their life mission to take their frustration with their own life out on you. It's unfortunate, but we have adults that are making judgments of teenagers who are just trying to navigate this complicated world while trying to survive their upbringing, which could range from anything between the Brady Bunch and flowers in the attic. In your very own situation, you were disparaged by your class advisor who took it upon herself in front of a class of honor students to belittle you and then compare you to somebody who had mental health issues who eventually took his own life. It's unfortunate, but it's not specific to you. There are countless stories of teachers across the United States putting kids down, telling them they'll never amount to anything, picking on them, trying to humiliate them. And unfortunately, it's just the result of the fact that hurt people hurt people. Sometimes you're bullied by people. And although a lot of times when we think about bullying, we're thinking about on the school bus or in the playground, but the reality is that, unfortunately, people can be bullied anywhere from elementary school all the way up into the workplace. And again, a lot of this comes down to hurt people, and instead of dealing with their issues, they find ways to take their frustrations with their life and with their situation out on other people. And these people typically try to take out their angers, their own fears, their own frustrations on people that they feel that they have authority over, or people that they feel are weaker than them. And it's not always physical. A lot of times it can be verbal abuse, people that are putting down your ideas, putting you down all the time to the point where you feel as if you don't really have any self-worth left, that you don't have anything to offer, that you're really not as good as you wanted to think that you could be. And this can get to the point where you start to feel stupid for even ever believing in yourself or your ideas in the first place. And sometimes it's not always the things that people do to you, but it's the things that they don't do. A lot of us go through situations and everybody wants to be around a somebody. Nobody wants to be around a nobody. Everybody wants to be around for the party. Nobody wants to be around to help clean up. Some people were just missing when you needed them to show up. This could have been friends, this could have been family, but you went through some really tough times and the people that were supposed to be there were noticeably absent. When you look back at your life and you look at all of the situations that you've been through, it's real easy for you to hold a lot of resentment, anger, and frustration towards all of these people and the things that they did to you, the things that they said to you, and the things that they didn't do. This makes it really easy for you to fall into the mentality of, I'm going to show them. And you now look at your efforts to try to improve yourself, improve your life from the lens of, I'm going to get my revenge, I'm going to get vengeance. Now, let me be clear. I am not telling you that you have to forget, nor am I telling you that you're not eventually going to show them up one day. And whether or not you forgive them, That's a totally different conversation. In fact, I'm pretty certain you kept all those receipts for those interactions or lack thereof. But again, you have to remember, as you go through this journey of self-improvement and development, it has to be about you. If you're a believer, then your efforts have to be for the purpose of trying to create a stronger relationship with God, and through perfecting your character and through refining your spiritual practice. But overall, especially if you're not spiritually inclined, this has to be about you, not anybody else. Hate and anger can be excellent fuel, but it usually burns hot and fast. It can get you started, but it won't carry you over the long run. Remember that you're trying to improve your character. You're trying to improve who it is that you are so that you can become the person that you want to be. And you don't want to be the person who's filled with hate, anger, and resentment. While you're completely justified in feeling those feelings aren't feelings that you want to be motivated by, nor are those feelings that you want to build your foundation on. The other thing that you have to realize is that you may be spending the next couple or several of years changing your life, improving your situation, just to show somebody up, only to find out that they're dead, or that they've changed, or that they just don't care. So you're hoping to run a victory lap for somebody who doesn't even show up to your event. In other words, because those people hurt you in a way that left a mark on your life, you remember all of those instances. You let it consume your thoughts, you let it consume your time, you let it consume your energy. Some of those events had a real negative impact on who you once were. But the people who did it to you, the people who wronged you, the people who neglected you, there is a very high probability that they haven't thought about you or what they did to you or didn't do to you for a second. They've buried their actions so deep in their memory that they'd have a hard time digging it up when you confront them if you decided to do so. So while you might have romanticized about this look at me now moment, I can assure you that you most likely will not have that effect on anyone. Because they're most likely not even paying attention to you. They've moved on. Or like an elephant that tramples over ants. They're not even concerned with the damage that they might have caused. But even if your childhood tormentor someday sees you under the lights and you're able to say, look at me now. You tormented me and look at me now. You said I'd amount to nothing and look at me now. Then what? What about the day after? You spend your whole life trying to prove somebody wrong, trying to defy the odds, trying to get revenge. What happens when you accomplish your feat? Where does your motivation and discipline come from now? Because trust me, life is going to continue to throw punches at you and you are going to need them. So if your whole reason for being the new you is wrapped up in proving somebody wrong, what happens when you do? And even worse, what happens if you don't? Or you don't get the reaction that you were looking for? Sometimes it's not even about revenge. It's about love. It's about seeking the love and compassion that you wished you'd always had. You feel like, if only I could become special enough, they will notice me. If only I could do something great, they will love me. If only I could do something where people celebrate me, then they would celebrate me. Brother or sister, listen to me. That is gonna hurt really bad when you realize that you've put in all of that effort for nothing. Because the problem isn't you. The problem is them. And there is nothing that you could ever do to earn their love. So you don't want to build a life based on the shallow purpose of just showing somebody up, only to find out that they don't care. And then you've built this new persona, built upon anger and hate and frustration. And in the end, you never even got out of them what you really wanted. And even if you did, you're left with this empty feeling of now what? You find that the new you is built on a foundation that you can't carry forward, and that can't carry you forward. So you have to find a higher purpose for why it is that you're trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, and why it is that you're trying to be who you want to become. Your actions should never be done based upon the desire to elicit a reaction out of somebody else, because at the end of the day, it lacks sincerity, and it has you chasing something that is completely outside of your control. From a spiritual perspective, we want to make sure that we're doing our actions for God's sake, meaning that we're not doing them because we're seeking praise or reward from some person, or we're seeking to make them jealous or angry with us. And that we're not dually motivated by seeking some sort of worldly reward. And that's because when you're seeking a spiritual reward, that can only be given to you by God. And when you seek a reward from somebody who cannot give it to you, that's just foolish. And when you seek a reward from someone of this world, then you can't expect to receive it from the one you didn't seek it from. On top of this, you don't control people's reactions. So you could spend all of this time trying to make people happy with you or angry with you, trying to make them proud of you or trying to make them jealous of you, only to find out that they're the opposite of what you desired or completely indifferent. People change. They may not be the same person that caused you that harm. You're certainly not trying to be the same person who received it. And if you're trying to show people up, there are people in every arena that are wildly famous, yet remain unknown to people outside of that arena. So you go and become MMA world champion, and the teacher who told you that you'd become a nobody thinks that MMA is an ingredient in processed food. Your father, who didn't care about you back then, certainly isn't going to care about you now just because you became successful. And if you do, he may be so indifferent that it isn't going to hurt his feelings that you have. And even if he does celebrate you and show love, is that the type of love that you desire? Love and affection that's conditional upon you being so successful that he could notice you? Living your life this way causes you to waste a lot of time and energy thinking about how other people think of you and how they will perceive you if only you could become successful. And all of this takes precious time and energy away from you becoming who you want to be and focusing your energy and your efforts on making that a reality. You got to remember that regardless of whether you're doing all right or not, or whether you're crushing it or not, most people just don't care. And if these people are hating on you because you're struggling, you don't need these types of people in your life, and you certainly don't need to be trying to win their love and their affection and their praise. And likewise, the type of people that only care about you because you're successful are not the type of people that you want to be spending any energy on. You could be the biggest name in the arena that you operate in and still be completely unknown to the vast majority of people on this earth. But at the end of the day, notoriety is not something that you should be chasing. It's something that's completely out of your control, and it is definitely not a measure of success. Again, success is doing what you said you were going to do, putting in the amount of effort that you're capable of, regardless of the results. It's adherence to the consistent striving of perfection of the character of oneself. It's seeking the pleasure of God through the consistent struggle and effort towards doing the right thing and avoiding doing the wrong thing. Your focus should not be seeking the approval of others. You're not looking to show somebody up. You're not looking for a look at me now moment. You just need to put your head down and work. If someone has unjustly harmed you, they've truly harmed themselves by doing so. I don't expect you to be friends someday, but remember how easy it was for you to make mistakes. It's hard to overlook the mistakes that others have made against you. You know this because you're afraid that others may never forget you for the mistakes that you've made against them. So there's an aspect of this where you can't get too caught up in the idea that somebody would oppress you in this minefield that we call life. But the most important thing is that you have to have clarity in your heart for what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And it has to be rooted in something more than just, let me show you. Don't get me wrong. The world needs you to show us what you're capable of, but not because we need you to prove us wrong, but because those of us who believe in you, we need you to prove us right.